Hello, I'm Tony Goldstone. So once you click through to modelyourpension.com, you'll be taken through a login screen with your BMA credentials, and then you'll eventually come through to the current version of the model. And the landing page will be this table of contents page. On the top you'll see a copyright notice, and then directly underneath that you'll see that there's a version number and release date. And because the tool is constantly updated, it's really important that you always click via the BMA website to get the latest version of the model. And then if we go down to the table of contents itself, on the top you can always click back and go back to the detailed guide which explains each of the sheets and what data you need to put into them. And then the main bulk of the model is split into two main sections. So I'll just do the lower section first because you don't really need to go into that, but these are a set of calculation sheets, but all the values that you need are in these upper models here, so there should be no need for you to go into any of these calculation sheets, but they're there just for information. And then as to the main model itself, you can see that it's split into three main sections. So we've got basic, intermediate and advanced. So the basic model just comprises these three simple sheets, and this is the absolute minimum that's required to get a pension estimation or an estimation of tax. But if you want to go into more detail, you can come down into these intermediate and advanced tabs, which will give you much more detailed information and allow much more detailed customization in the factors tab, or advanced modelling such as Hokey Cokey in the advanced section. In the final column you can see that there's some links through to explanatory videos such as this one, and as I record these will be populated in this section of the spreadsheet. But I'm just going to give you a very quick introduction to the three main tabs on the top here, but there will be more detailed videos on each of these. So to navigate, if you click on the link and then if you click on the URL that flashes up, that will take you through to the tab. So this is the initial step one or minimum dataset tab, and it's called the minimum dataset because this reflects the minimum data that you need to put in to be able to get a pensions estimate. So we can see here we've got the legacy pension. Initially that's just going to be 1995, but once the 2008 model is finished, that drop down will allow you to select that option. You need to give the model your age and the amount of legacy service and when you were appointed to a consultant. And assuming that you're a consultant in England, you should put a 1 in here. And then if we scroll down to this section, we can see that the model needs to know 7 years of pay history and your non-pensionable pay to be able to give you a prediction. And then all of the blue values are optional values to further tweak the model. So if we go back to the table of contents, the next basic sheet is the data validation step. And you'll see the data validation step has changed from the initial release of the model, and this now reflects the sort of documents that you get from NHS pensions, including a TRS statement and an annual benefit statement. So you can select the year of the document that you're validating against, so for most people that will be 1718. And then you can see that you have a mock-up of the TRS statements. On the top you've got your legacy pension or the 1995 section, and you should be able to see these key values here. And if you've put in all the values of the model correctly, the TRS value should generally be correct to within £1. And if they're not, you need to refer back to the user guide and see the suggestions to try and update the model to make sure it matches that on your TRS statement. And then underneath the 1995 legacy values, you can see the new 2015 section, and again these values should generally match within £1. And if you want to see what your future statements would look like based on the modelling information that you've put in, so for example if I want to look here at 1920, you can see that all of those values will be updated. So for example here I've got to year end 2020, and I can see that the pension earned has been updated, and as have the annual benefit statements. So for the validation step, you're trying to make sure that the TRS values match but you will find that there will be larger differences in the values with your estimated pension saving statements, which are a little bit more variable. So coming back to the table of contents, the final basic step is the change analyzer step. And this gives a simple graphical view of your taxation and your pension, and also a simple table of your taxation and your pension. And crucially, you now need to give the model a desired pension age to get an accurate value. So by default, this is 60. And with the set at 60, I can see, for example, if I use this model, which is the scheme pays all model, I will end up with a pension of 55,765, which in today's money is about £36,000. But I can change that default model. For example, if I'm self-paying my annual allowance, I can get a pension in today's money worth 51,757. And similarly, I can change any of the variables that will affect the value of my pension. So for example, if I choose to go instead at 58 instead of 60, all of these graphs and these values will be updated. So just coming across to these graphs very quickly, the two most important graphs are these two here. So I can see if I hover over any of these triangles, I can see what my annual allowance bill will be by age. So I can see peaking at an annual allowance bill of £24,000 a year at age 60, and then all these peaks are at pay increments. And then on this lower graph, I can see in the red what my cumulative annual allowance charge would be. So if I was to stay in the scheme till 68, I would have paid £579,000 in tax from my taxed income. And if I would have used scheme pays, I would have had a scheme pays loan of £952,000, so almost £1 million. So that's the three basic tabs that form the basic model, and I'll discuss each of them in subsequent videos and all the other tabs in subsequent videos.